Hi, my name is Megan Gidley and I'm the Director of Marketing with Connect. Welcome back to the Get Connected podcast. We're in Acton, California with Johnny Flores, and today we're going to be talking with him about the Western horse training and some of the different show norms that he knows. If you missed our first podcast with Johnny, make sure you check it out now on our YouTube channel. Let's dive in. Johnny, welcome back. Let's get into the nitty-gritty behind Western horse training and some different show norms. Now, my understanding is that the show norms closely adhere to the cowpuncher tradition. Would you please expand on that?
Yeah, so a lot of, and I can speak for, at least with the training, I can speak more for cow horse versatility, ranch riding, more of those kinds of things. I can't speak for the entire Western horse training sphere like Western pleasure, for example. But yeah, you're totally right. A lot of the show norms adhere more to the cowpuncher tradition. There's a lot of people will say that because the world shows were in Texas, and at the time there were less people in California, less world shows in California, that just by sheer numbers, the Texas Cowboy, the cowpuncher, which is basically Cowboys Texas and east of that, their style basically kind of won. And you can see that now in the way that their horses are trained. The horses are trained to spin lower to the ground. They have more bend in them. They're a little bit, they create a wider base with their feet. They're not so close together, moving very ballet-like how a classically trained dressage horse would, or how a bridle horse would move. Over time, they've just slowly favored that kind of horse. But as far as the show norms, most of those horses are broke in, maybe they're broken in a hackamore, but they're trained 99% of the time in a snaffle. They'll be trained in simple curves, usually martingales, drop-its, things like that will be used to kind of help the horse get the certain frame that they want. And then, everything in that tradition is revolving around time, because the show world is about time. We want to try to get these horses broke and trained quickly so that we can get to our futurities, so we can get to our derbies. The whole tradition, it's just about trying to get these horses broke quickly. Whereas the Caro tradition, it's so darn slow that once horse training became a commodity, it pretty much died because it didn't make sense money-wise. It makes no sense. So that's kind of why, if that makes sense.
That's a lot of great information. Now, walk me through a basic overview of what Western horse training, but specifically ranch horse training, looks like from the beginning through the training and then on to the final product.
Yeah, so with the ranch horse training, what's really neat about ranch horse training in particular is when you watch it, you see a lot of different styles. The far east cowpuncher guys, you see them, they ride a certain way with their horses. You see the Midwestern cowpuncher guys, there's a little bit more of a Caro influence there nowadays. And then you see the Californians and the Arizona riders, the Buckaroo riders. You see all these different styles because the American cowboy isn't one size fits all. So you watch people like Laurel Denton show her horses. She's a champion trainer and clinician. Her horses look very much like a bridle horse. Very upright, very in the bridle. They carry the fancier bits. They look like a bridle horse. But then you see someone like Bud Lyon, his horses, and he's another incredible trainer. His horses look more similar to a reining style horse. So it's kind of funny because it's not just like a set sort of thing. But generally speaking, those horses they'll get started, they'll get broke, they'll get trained. Usually it's going to be again in the snaffle because everything favors time in the show world. And you have only so much time to get your horses broke. And some people, it is a minority, but some people will train in a hackamore. Most people train in their snaffles and then will show in a hackamore based on age requirements and all that. But the final horse, regardless of the tradition that you pick, is one that's soft, one that's guidable, and one that's frankly a good tool to use on a ranch. If you're fighting that horse to get to a gate or to move cattle or to rope, that horse is a pretty bad tool on a ranch, right? So the whole thing is about fluidity, preserving the natural ranch horse appearance, not making the head super low, not making it super high, making it a functional, working horse.
So while the journey might vary, the final product should look the same?
Yeah, the final product in terms of efficiency will look the same. It's just that some horses might be a little bit more upwards and might have more of a cow horse, more natural style of a look, whereas some horses might look more like a reiner in that they are more framed up. Their heads are a little bit more in, their heads are maybe a little bit lower. Not quite as low as a reiner, but just lower compared to a bridle horse. But in terms of how they finish, the softness that's there that you want, that's the same.
And the guidability, trainability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. So what are a few important things to keep in mind when it comes to Western horse training with ranch horses?
A really important thing to keep in mind is, well, if you're going to be showing, you got to get your transitions down. Transitions, if you got good transitions, you'll do pretty good already. That's like 90% of the whole deal. Ranch horses, they want horses that can move around. They don't want slow horses that sit there and, lope around like a pleasure horse. You want a horse that can lope 20 miles by the end of the day and get to the destination. So like with things like a drag, for example, you got to imagine there's a calf kicking on that rope. You want to drag that calf quickly. You don't want to be the idiot on the ranch that loses that calf and gets yelled at by everyone. So a lot of it is understanding the real life applications of how that horse should be used as a tool on a ranch and really applying them in the transitions. And the other thing is tempo and cadence. You got to imagine that your horse's feet are like a metronome, that little pyramid thing, the little ticky-ticky thing. You got to imagine the feet are like a metronome. And, if you can get through a course and you're not breaking that tempo, it's going to be hard to not give you credit for that. You're going to be doing so well. It's the horses that, trot fast, trot slow, and then they're breaking cadence and they're not rhythmically like in tune with you.
So it's keeping a steady beat?
Yeah, keeping a steady beat, keeping a steady flow. Like for ranch trail, for example, between the obstacles, you don't want to rush, and likewise, you don't want to go super slow. Imagine again, you got to get through this course. This is a job interview that you're doing to work on a ranch, right? That's how I always treat my ranch trail horses, as a job interview for the judge to go work on his ranch and be his top hand. So I don't want to be sitting there dilly-dallying, and likewise, I don't want to rush and look like I have Benny Hill music playing behind me. I want to try to get through it quickly but efficiently. And if you do both of those things, the tempo just sort of falls into place.
That makes sense. So do you have any advice for someone who's currently wanting to get into the cowpuncher style of riding?
Yeah, if you're trying to get into the cowpuncher style of riding, just take your time. I think that sometimes people will get into that style of riding because of how much quicker it can be than the vaquero tradition, not realizing that the end result is ideally the same. Good horse training results in a soft, willing horse. And horses, at the end of the day, for training purposes, they're always being trained to be a tool to serve a purpose. So how good is a tool in the end, right? But yeah, just trying to go slow. I think it's kind of easy with a snaffle because it's a direct pressure. It's like, hey, come here. Versus a hackamore, it's a little bit like you're kind of dancing around your words. You're sort of bluffing things. It's more complicated. I think people will find the snaffle like, this is my shortcut. And it's like, no, you still should train at the rate the horse learns. Otherwise, you're fixing bullet holes with Band-Aids in their training. And
right.
You just got this horse with all these holes,
That makes sense. So take your time with each specific horse, kind of adjust to their tempo. And
Yeah, horses are individuals, and some horses are incredibly talented in certain things and they have absolutely no talent in other things. And that's perfectly fine. Horses are individuals and they should be treated as such. I have seen gypsy horses that have slid and turned better than quarter horses, and I've seen kill-pen horses drop their guard with one carrot. I've seen Mustangs that change leads like a dressage horse. So you got to just work with the horse as an individual. And overall, the horse flesh nowadays is so darn good. So it's like, that's pretty neat. You have that working in your favor.
Yeah. So do you have any good resources, and this can be including yourself and also outside of yourself, that are out there that can help someone who is interested in learning more about this training style?
Yeah, I think that one of the best books out there for the more cowpuncher style, it touches on hackamore stuff, but not to the degree where a real hackamore trainer is going to be like, this is Bible. Breaking and Training the Stock Horse by Charles O. Williamson is a wonderful book. It's surface level. You can understand all of it. And it gives you a lot of really good exercises to get the maneuvers down. And once you get those maneuvers down, at that point, that's, I think, when you can kind of go to a trainer and really get things polished up, because that book will really guide you to it. There's a couple other books. Hackamore Reinsman is a little bit more, hackamore, but you can apply most of those things into a snaffle bit. Nowadays, though, with the subscriptions, there's like Ride TV, Horse and Rider on Demand, Rein Cow Horse Online, Cutting Horse Training Online. All those services are just wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of this wonderful information. I look forward to hearing more. Connected podcast. We're in Acton, California with Johnny Flores, and we're going to be talking to him a little bit about the Western style training that he does and a different take on the vaquero bridle horse training. That's not right. You didn't record. You pee-peed on me. Thanks for watching another Get Connected podcast. Make sure you stay tuned to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel for more. Have a great week.